Antigenes, burned alive in a pit, 316 BCE. Another veteran of Philip's generation, Antigenes first attained notoriety for his performance during the siege of Perinthus in 340 BCE. The taking of this city near the Hellespont helped Philip seal off the Black Sea, where Athens procured much of its grain, and also deprived the Persians of a European landing zone. During the battle, Antigenes displayed exemplary bravery and lost an eye. Under Alexander, Antigenes' original role is unknown. The Hypaspists were a veteran unit which had fought under Philip with distinction and continued to be Alexander's best infantry unit throughout his long Asian campaign. They were originally commanded by Parmenio's son Nicanor, but when Alexander came to suspect Parmenio's son Philotas of plotting and ended up executing the entire clan, the command post opened up. At some point, Antigenes succeeded Nicanor as the unit's commander. While in India, probably ahead of Antigenes' command, the unit changed its name to the Silver Shields. It is likely that Alexander chose Antigenes for both his toughness and his loyalty, since he became increasingly paranoid about ambitious men as time went on. Given the later perfidy of many of the successors, perhaps Alexander's fears were better founded than many scholars are inclined to think. When Alexander died in 323, Antigenes was given the satrapy of Susiana, an important area of western Iran. One suspects that he had the clout to earn that spot due to the support of his legendary infantry unit. When the Silver Shields proved to be too much for anyone else to tame, Antigenes was restored to the command of that unit. Though the Silver Shields were all at least 60 years old, the unit was still the most lethal in the world. In ancient warfare, older veterans were preferred in the heat of battle since they had more proficiency with arms, had intimidating scars, had no remaining qualms about inflicting violence, held fewer fears of what the future might bring, and who would most likely be forced to fight to the death since they were too old to run away with any real chance of escape. The two downsides to older soldiers are that they tended to be cliquish and unfriendly to other troops, while also not having the same stamina or zeal for marching and digging fortifications when compared to their younger colleagues. Antigenes is not mentioned very much in the sources, but it is likely that he was with Craterus when he came to rescue Antipater in Europe. We know for certain that Antigenes and the Silver Shields were present with Eumenes when he defeated Craterus, for it was Antigenes who suggested that they join Eumenes. Antigenes stayed with Eumenes until the latter's defeat at the hands of Antigonus. In times of peace between battles, Antigonus helped Pukestus and others challenge Eumenes' leadership. However, he did keep the Silver Shields as in line as anyone possibly could, which still wasn't enough to prevent them from inflicting violence on officers. Since I am already providing a complete summary of Eumenes' campaign in my video on him, I will leave out all of the battles that Antigenes participated in. Suffice it to say that in Craterus' final defeat, the unit was not involved, since the battle was won before the infantry came to blows. Under Eumenes, the Silver Shields always defeated the enemy in front of them, and even performed superbly in Eumenes' final battle at Gabiene. Antigonus eventually had to resort to the ruse of capturing the unit's baggage, which included their wives and children, and ransoming that to them in exchange for Eumenes and the other commanders. When he had Antigenes in captivity, Antigonus ordered him to be burned alive in a pit. Antigonus was generally a great deal less brutal than the other successors, and one suspects that this was either settling a very personal score that we don't know about, or else Antigonus was taking out his frustrations on the legendary unit which had nearly brought him to ruin and was now his. After having the Silver Shields for just a few months, Antigonus felt Antigenes' pain at having to manage such men, and split up the unit into many parts. For all practical intents and purposes, the legendary Silver Shields died when they handed over Antigenes to meet his doom. Later on, the Seleucid Empire would revive the unit of the Silver Shields, but it would never quite be as elite as the Silver Shields who had marched with Philip and Alexander. Antigenes never seems to have had any real chance of being an independent ruler. Given the length of his service and his position, it is possible that he rose through the ranks from a more humble station than his fellow officers, and saw action in most of the legendary battles of both Philip II and Alexander the Great. His control over his small but crack unit of veterans ensured that he was a very useful ally, however. We cannot fully assess the man's abilities based on what little we know of him, but he was probably the kind of tough old bravo who was an excellent subordinate commander so long as he was given a task which was characterized more by brawling than by thinking. His ability to retain the loyalty over a group of cranky and war-weary veterans suggests that he had some degree of charisma. Perhaps Antigenes' method of execution suggests that Antigenes, despite his age and lack of loyal troops, could have mounted a comeback and posed yet more obstacles to Antigenes' ambition had he been spared.